Hello and welcome to your show, your regular programming, SBL, SOUQ Business Landscape. My name is Chooks, John Rogers Chooks, and there is no better place and no better time to be alive than be part of this conversation. Today we'll be looking at three major news that is circulating and people are talking, actions are being taken, economies are growing, and people are still being cautious on it. We'll look at three of this as it affects not just your economy, Nigeria, and some other partners. We'll be looking at the Lagos state government telling us about buildings without building, not just building permits, but approval for the building themselves. Several, well over 70%, don't have building permits. Approval to also build those houses. Then we also get to see what's happening with transmission. Now, companies within Nigeria involved in metering are saying that the first policy of this particular administration is not going as said. Last week, the president said, buy Nigeria first, and he started with direct emphasis and direct regulation to the ministries. And now TCN, the TCN, Transmission Company of Nigeria, has gone ahead to award contracts to Chinese companies. Now, Nigerian companies are speaking up. We'll also look at that. Then finally, this happens to be very good news. The Chinese firm is looking at how to align with Nigerian companies and Nigerian government to build EVs, electric vehicles. So where do we come in? These are the stories we'll be looking at today on SOUQ Business Landscape. But to start, I can't be here alone. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm privileged to have the best set of people to work with. Right from my right, Mr. Priye. Welcome to SBL.
Thank you very much. My name is Oyinpreye Krumale. I'm here.
Full and short. Now, just this way. I wanted to use some good adjectives, but let me let that roll for a while. I have a very beautiful lady by my left. Bola, you're welcome to SBL.
Good afternoon. I'm curious as to the adjectives that you wanted to use. But it's fine. Good afternoon. My name is Omobola Sandra.
You're welcome. Then Moyo is also here.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. Moyosore Adebiyi here. Thank you.
Okay, so we hit it straight. Now, there has been growing concern among local manufacturers after the Transmission Company of Nigeria awarded electricity meter supply contract worth over 160 billion to two Chinese firms. Despite repeated calls to support indigenous production, the Association of Meter Manufacturers of Nigeria, AMON, revealed this in a statement lamenting the exclusion of local companies from World Bank-funded deal for the supply of 1.25 million meters. According to the association, only 75,000, I repeat it again, only 75,000 meters have been delivered so far, with none installed, according to them. A performance they describe as poor and counterproductive. Despite this, TCN is reportedly moving ahead with plans to move another round of foreign procurement, this time 1.55 million meters, among ones that the sideline of local firms could cripple the domestic meter manufacturing industry. I need to put that in quote, but let me just finish it. This has produced 350 billion worth of meters between 2021 and 2024. The group is urging President Bola Tinubu to enhance the Nigerian First Policy recently approved by his administration, calling for prioritization of local content to boost industrial growth and job creation. That brings us to this particular talk. Now, within these schools, this money came from World Bank, to be specific, $500 million. A loan, let's also put that in context. Now, this particular loan was to make sure these schools become profitable, get metering, and get some financial accountability to the last door user. Now, this part of this was to procure meters. Now, these meters, according to what we are hearing, is going to people in China, not here, production-wise. Let's start this talk from you, Priye. From a layman's perspective, do you think TCN should look inwards first? Or they just should go to where they think will give them the best option?
Okay. First of all, I think the Association of the Metering Manufacturers Organizations of Nigeria had done a very good job in bringing this to the limelight. Most especially, I think they are very, very strategic because they needed first to, identify and reference the renewed hope Nigeria First Policy. So, Mr. President, since you have said this, we cannot have just barely a few weeks after you've said that, we have the TCN, which is an arm of the government, taking a different part. So if the TCN had consulted the Bureau of Public Procurement, which when the Nigerian First Policy was put out right in front of us, and they had given the go-ahead, okay, there are no local manufacturers of these meters, and we cannot source, or we do not have any of these local manufacturers in our database that is credible enough for us to, give them the contract, then we can say, okay, but now it looks like the BPP is silent in this case, which one could say, obviously, they've not been consulted, or maybe they were not there when the deal was made. So I can just leave that hanging. So the Association of Meter Manufacturers locally were saying that between 2021 to 2024, local producers were able to spend 353.7 billion naira in manufacturing these meters locally.
Okay.
However, they were silent about the number
of meters
that they were able to manufacture,
and
which is
numbers
almost
installed.
Numbers installed, rather.
And numbers working.
Exactly, which is just 2 times the price of what the TCN gave this contract to the 2 Chinese companies at the first time. So there's a question mark for the association that is laying this allegation. However, I'm not criticizing them. I'm just trying to expose that little hole from their part of argument. Because if they had given us numbers, they only gave us money. If they had given us numbers and the way they gave numbers for the TCN action, then we can begin to look at it from a very perfect and objective point of view. However, I'm not ruling out the fact that they brought it up. On the other hand, these 2 Chinese companies that was first given the first contract, they were to give us 1.25 million meters. And they gave us how many? 75,000. And that money, it was
allegedly.
Allegedly, was 160 million naira. So, who gave them that? What administration gave them that contract? And when they gave us 750 or 75,000 instead of 1.25 million, someone should have, raised the alarm.
Okay, can I answer some of the questions you raised
then,
that are not rhetoric? Now, the administration is this current administration. The loan was approved last year. February last year, 2024. $500 million. World Bank.
There's a grave silence in that part at this point in time. There's a grave silence. What happened? 75,000 away from 1.25 million.
Don't you think we need Bureau of Public Enterprise to talk? We need to hear from them too.
Well, we need to hear from them, but at the moment, they've not said anything. So we'll be looking at them with good eyes, like with eagle eyes. So now we are going for another tranche of a loan, and we are looking at 1.55.
The same loan.
The same procurement, the same project. 1.55 million meters. That's what we are looking at. So we shouldn't just leave these things to institutional talks. When I mean institutional talks, organizations or institutions within the arm of the executive government, within the executive arm of government. No, we should take it down to the legislative. They should send for the Bureau of Public Procurement's head.
The manufacturer should get to the National Assembly, is that what you're trying to suggest?
Yes.
Okay.
If this is put in front...
Why we hold on to that particular thought? Now, this happened in 2024. If we follow the timeline for procurement, it's possible they have gone ahead to do this particular procurement before the first Nigeria First Policy dropped, because that dropped like 2-3 weeks ago. So do you think them going ahead, some percentage should have been left for local manufacturers?
No percentage should have been left for local manufacturers. We have 13 meter manufacturers, licensed meter manufacturers in Nigeria with the capacity to produce 6 million meters annually.
Okay.
6 million meters annually. Why are we going out to even procure?
Okay, you're 100% in support of let's breed in-house.
before the Nigeria First policy at all, something that we have, we can, we're capable of supplying, we're capable of meeting this need. Why are we even procuring from outside in the first place? Yeah. If you have 13 licensed meter manufacturers in Nigeria, and these 13 can produce sufficiently 6 million liters annually, I don't see any reason why we should go outside. Now, we have gone outside because we like going outside in Nigeria. I don't know why, but we like going outside. And then we went outside. We got a World Bank funded project, 1.25 million. Only 75,000 was gotten.
Allegedly, because we have to see that direct confirmation.
According to them. According to them. Only 75,000 was gotten. And we still can't account for over 1-point-something million from that one. And we are going ahead to get another one of 1.55 million. I don't understand what is going on. And then what exactly is up with us waking up one morning and pushing out a reform, I mentioned it the other time. I said I'm being cautiously optimistic, but we like sloganeering in this country. Yeah. Nigeria first. Who's going to...
Nigeria first is Nigeria first.
I don't think it was necessary to tell me. Okay. It ought to be.
Exactly. Why should it be a policy?
It ought to be.
That should come... Why should it be a policy that comes with an executive order? I have questions on executive orders in this country because a lot of executive orders...
Why we deal with your executive order? Moyo, let me come to you. Now, let's look at who is funding, what is funding, source of the funding alone, which means money has come in. Part of that 500 was for some other things. Then a lot of it was also for this metering. Now, for the metering, TCN has gone ahead to take it outside Nigeria. If we spend this money in our economy,
more debts.
If this money was being spent in our economy, do you think it would have done us more good?
Of course. If the meters were...
It's a World Bank funded...
Yeah, use the money.
It's a loan, actually.
It's a loan.
Yeah, exactly.
And then use the money, give it to the people who make meters here. I think it's a lot better because it's not just a political misstep, it's an economic error. We can't continue to just send our money outside.
The whole point of Nigeria First was to strengthen our currency. World Bank is not giving me loan in Naira. Is the World Bank giving us the loan in Naira? No. The World Bank is giving us this loan in dollars. We are going to pay back in dollars. Whatever way we are looking at it, pumping it into the economy to the local suppliers, we don't need that. The whole point.
So what are you now saying? Are you saying that it is better that we procure this meters?
Procure in-house. Have a contract.
Yeah, you're saying that's exactly what I'm saying.
No, you're saying that we procure in-house, but we funds from the World Bank. Let's not forget that
the funds are for meters. That's what the funds are for.
We are still borrowing the money from the World Bank. And let's not forget that World Bank does not give you money anyhow. There are underlying, conditions that come with any World Bank loan. There are conditions that you have to meet as a country if World Bank decides to give you money.
Okay, now let's move away from the World Bank itself.
We will not move away from the World Bank because the World
Bank is very critical. They are very critical to this issue.
For this particular discourse now, let's hold on to the World Bank and now come to our local manufacturers. We're looking at jobs. We're looking at capacity. We're looking at those that have been able to show that, yes, they can get this done. At what point does certification and accreditation from TCN and other electricity bodies count for these manufacturers?
The fact that 13 licensed meter manufacturers did not count at all, that answers the question.
Okay, Moyo, let me come to you. If you happen to own one of these companies that are making meters in Nigeria, what will you do?
What would I do right now?
Moyo will start a fight.
Of course I would.
Speak out.
I would obviously speak out. You can't be silent. You can't invest so much in having the capacity to produce these things, and people are looking outside. It doesn't.
How would you feel?
Where will you go to?
Where will I go to? Yes. I'll probably be protesting in front of the National Assembly on a hunger strike or something.
I go to the BPP and then I go to whoever came up with the Nigeria First policy.
Okay. Now,
I don't know why we're talking about Nigeria First policy.
Yes, it's necessary.
Because it is based on that policy now that people are speaking out. You just declared Nigeria First the other day, and now it's China First.
Okay.
Are you not sure this particular
Or
deal
China
was
after
signed
Nigeria.
even before?
Or
Okay.
China with Nigeria
Okay,
first.
so
China and Nigeria first.
That's why I'm saying it doesn't matter, because this thing was last year, as you said.
Yes,
the
the
funding
loan-
for this
yes,
thing
the
was
funding,
last year.
yes, was
Whether we had the policy, this Nigeria First policy or not, common sense should say that you look inward when you have the capacity to do it.
No. The 1.25 was last year. The 1.55
It's
is
recent.
just very
It's
recently.
from the same funding.
Okay, fair.
from
Yes, from same.
Whether it's yesterday
we
or
could
it's
have
tomorrow.
used the funds for something else.
Whether it's yesterday or it's tomorrow.
We could have used the funds for something else.
Just a moment.
Rather than metering.
Okay, now hold on. Let's put some clarity on this. Now, the 500 million came specifically
Dollars.
to $500 million.
Very
You like the
important.
dollars a lot. Came specifically to empower the discos, to make sure that distribution improved. So that was what that funding was for, and that was approved.
And are you saying
So
that
there are-
it's only metering that?
No, there are different sectors, there are different amounts that were earmarked for different things, but all targeted towards discos and making sure that power gets to the end user and the end user gets to pay for it. Now, we are looking at this from a different perspective. Job loss.
All parts.
Can we compare, if we keep going this route, do we see a situation where the graduates coming out of school can look forward to going to any of these licensed manufacturers tomorrow when they don't have a job?
Okay, so first of all, I see the reason why the World Bank have the effrontery in recent development where he was talking about
raise concerns.
the update reports that Nigeria needs to remove electricity subsidy. Because why I can see the fact that they have the right to say that.
Yes.
Because we have made funds available for
Yes.
this purpose. And according to our own expectation and project execution, you should have used money for the purpose for which it was earmarked. Now, if the government have not done that, it will not be the fault of the World Bank. It will be the fault of the government or the relevant institution, the relevant ministries, departments, and agency. And I'm glad that Amon is coming up with this. So, back to your question about job losses. 13? Because I actually just wrote down 3 of the names because I saw the names, they were actually
13.
much. So I just wrote down 3 of those local producers of metering. So
We have vendors,
we have vendors, we
asset
have
providers,
and we have
manufacturers.
manufacturers. So if we have manufacturers, what does it even entail in the first place to have a manufacturing company in Nigeria? It tells the fact that we have a technology in place. Whether that technology was locally developed or it was imported into the country, as long as it is doing manufacturing locally in the country, there is this tendency for us to expand that particular sector to accept most persons who are in the university studying mechanical or electrical engineering.
The point is,
For
Mr.
them to
Prey,
be
is
brought
that
into the
more you sideline these
local manufacturers, the
you-
more these industries die.
the industry,
you kill the
yes,
industry.
That's just it.
And when you kill the
threatens
industry,
that industry.
because now those 2 Chinese companies that got this contract, you are expanding manufacturing in their
For them.
country for them. So we are expanding their job creation market, we are expanding their technology, and we wait for them, then we now import the finished product. So it takes us back to the place where our country just sits down and just consume foreign produced goods. And it moves away, it takes away our monies locally. Down, and to fund infrastructure
Not even our money.
development outside
the country.
It's not even our money. It's not our money.
I don't care.
No, of course it's our money because we are going to pay back and we are going to pay
Once you've
back.
taken a loan, it's your money.
Yeah, but what is important
point-
is that we ensure that we engage these people. If you
The
have the
point-
capacity
exactly.
to do this,
We have the capacity. The
Why
point
not?
is patronage. Who is going to patronize them? And then as well as a political will. Why are you not... You gave them the license for something.
Okay.
yeah,
Patronize them.
that's where you utilize them. So what's the point?
Now,
Patronize them.
we have the National Mass Metering Program. That's the federal government. Now, for map asset providers, meter asset providers, and vendors, now they produce on their own. Now, for discos can tell you can go buy from the vendors or buy from any other place. But once you buy, it becomes the property of the discos. That is law around here. Now, for the mass metering, which is where the federal government has gotten this particular loan and sending this monies across borders to go get these meters. We are still looking at, if we say as a people, let us consume locally made products, let us get our industries working, where do we go to say this kind of stance should stop?
BPP.
No. I don't know if you understand. We have to say,
where was the
this
BPP
place
when TCN made this procurement?
now,
because the BPP
let's look at time frame
to
also.
have a register.
Time
the
frame.
BPP is supposed to have a register of local contractors.
That's what they stated.
That's part of when the policy came out. These are part of the reasons that was outlined by the Minister of Information. The BPP is supposed to have a register of local manufacturers.
Probably they are still on it. You just came out 3 weeks ago. Maybe they are still on it and they don't have that yet.
Mr. Krumale.
Yeah, I'm just giving them the benefit of doubt.
Okay.
I'm just giving them
the
benefit of doubt.
Why we give benefits of doubt? Why we look at things working? We definitely they will. Let's always know this, that is our function, is our duty to stand and support policies that are right for our country and support what the president is saying, and also the president support what he's saying. So if we stand and say Nigeria first, then Nigeria first. If we have to go to the National Assembly and say, okay, see this particular contract, possibly it was signed before this policy was put in place. But we can also make changes to it.
But Mr. Chooks, there's something that with the
Nigeria,
government...
China first.
That first need
Nigeria
to pay attention first.
Okay.
These ministries, departments, and agencies annually submit budget to the executive arm of government. The executive arm of government collates these budgets from the several ministries and present it to the to present to the legislative arm of government. So in that particular process, you don't just tell us we're going to spend X, Y number of money for this and this purpose. How are you going to source it? If you are going to source it, let's know that it's coming from the BPP, and through the BPP, we know that there have been local manufacturers.
That's where the BPP comes in
because that is from source.
Why
Because if
should
you do not identify those companies,
local contractors.
So because if you do not have it coming from source, then I think including the government, everybody is ready
to consider, the Local Content Act and widening
the Local Content Act is so large, and if we dive there, we won't close today. We'll go on a break, and when we return, SBL will be right in your face. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. This is SBL. My name is Chooks, John Rogers Chooks. Remember, you can join us on all our social media handles. Just go to SOUQ News TV and you will see us live. Now we get to what's happening. Urban development. Lagos State is raising alarm. It's all about alarms being raised today. Now, in the major part of that particular story, the Lagos State has raised alarm over millions of buildings without approval. Someone is wondering, what are they talking about? Government has expressed serious concern over low rate of building approval, to be specific, permit, despite having more than 5 million structures spread across the state. At the ministerial press briefing, the Commissioner for Physical Planning and Urban Development, Dr. Oluyinka Olumide, revealed that only a small percentage of buildings in Lagos have formal approval. Between 2024 and April 2025, only 77 applications were received for layout plans, and with just 6 getting final approval. The commissioner also noted that routine monitoring of estate development has led to improved compliance and a rise in new applications. In addressing disputes, the Office of Physical Planning resolved over 70% of petitions through mediation, helping avoid costly legal battles. However, properties that violated planning rules faced regulatory actions, including sealing and, in some cases, total removal. The ministry says its efforts are geared towards creating a more sustainable and orderly urban environment. Now, let's get this in our heads. When we say building plan approval, building plan permit, it's serious. We now get to ask ourselves, Moyo, How did we get to see all these buildings if in over a year only 77 applications came in and less than 50% got approval?
I think it's,
where are they coming from?
I think it's mind-boggling that only 77 applications were made. And even in that 77, only 6 were approved. And then you start to ask yourself that, is this also an issue of, you know, the system not serving the people in the sense where they just feel like they have to bypass it? You know, that's also a question. There's also the fact that buildings are being erected, and even at the local government level, there's nobody doing oversight that can say, why is there a building here? How did it get here? And this is why we see so many buildings, you know, falling down anyhow. You know, if people don't, if the bodies responsible don't know that these buildings are even about to be built, or there's a plan for them to be built, how can they ensure that the structure is of the standards that it should be? You know, so there's a major oversight problem here, and I think at the end of the day, it boils down to the system. There is a major failure of the system.
Now, a lot of times when we say systems are not human beings. Systems are not bodies. We need to be specific in saying systems.
In this
I'm coming to you right now. We get to see red marks because that's more like the brand. You see red ink marks on buildings. After a while, they are no longer there and the construction continues. If we are looking at 77 applications in over a year and less than 50% approval, who is going around with the paint drawing those red marks?
It's probably the same people. Again,
Who's speaking out now?
it's probably the same people. And again, I'm just like, I don't understand how these things keep happening. If you remember, you see there was the building that fell down on Alexander Road in Ikoyi. How do you let a 21-story building just get built? How does that happen?
I was going there.
How does that even happen?
So now, in Lagos State, there are like, I'm exaggerating, yes, but there are like 1 million building control agencies. You have LAPSCA, you have LASCA, there's a lot of cars.
So many people.
There's a lot of agencies responsible for, you know, urban developments in Lagos State. Now, speaking of that Ikoyi building, 21 stories. But then when LASCA came and said, oh, it's only 10 that was approved. And according to LASCA, they said, oh, when they were building, when they got to the 17th, we went to meet them and said, what are you people doing? We approved only 10. You're on 17. And then somebody went somewhere, allegedly, probably greased somebody's palm or whatnot, and then construction continued. They got to 20. And then LASCA came back and it's like, what is going on? It's 10 that was approved. That particular project was closed down almost 3 times. Who goes back
to reopen
to approve reopening?
Okay.
So it's that system thing.
The system. Can we give a name to the system? Can we identify
the system? Is the bodies that are responsible for oversight of these things. It's simple.
Exactly.
There are people like you and me.
So oversight function from government offices.
Yeah.
Government agencies.
People within government offices.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Pri, let me come to you. If we say it's still alarming if we are saying 77 applications.
Oh, yes.
Good. Now, 77 applications. Let's now go back to that same question. There are buildings coming up in Lagos on a daily basis. Is it the local governments that are in charge? And is the supervision stopping at local level, or is it the Omonile that is handing over on non-state actors? Who exactly reports to the final authority that is supposed to be overseeing these issues?
Okay. If you are talking about oversight functions, I think during the incident that you mentioned, you know, when things like that happen, it becomes, you know, it will raise the dust and everybody starts talking about it, and little by little the government, you know, would jump, or the relevant agencies would jump in front of it. I'm like, okay, we've been doing this, we're doing that, we are still in the process of doing this, and they get people's attention for a while, and before you know it, things begin to fade out, and it just fade out completely. So, oversight function, those several hundred bodies that we mentioned who have the responsibility to provide oversight functions, supervisory functions to these buildings. The thing is, when they do that, you know, when the palm of a superior body is greased to reopen that building, even when you go back and say, I thought we put a red mark on this building that we suspend construction here. Why did you reopen it? And they can tell you to talk to your boss. In that particular case, I will always go back to institutions that have the responsibility. When I talk about institutions, I'm talking about the State Assembly in this case. Because the State Assembly have the right, to summon the state institution, the Lagos State Building Agency of a town planning agency that gives permit for these buildings, to be erected. It has the right and the responsibility. And the case is, if it doesn't do that, the senator or the member House of Rep or the member of the House of Assembly or the local government councillor in whose ward that building is being, is being built, have the responsibility to call and say, look, this is what is happening in my area. And we all know something. Real estate is booming in Nigeria. Yeah. So because of the boom of real estate, the tendency for the building contractors to cut corners, developers to cut corners, to bypass all the relevant agencies and all the bureaucratic agencies that have been put in place to make sure that we have quality buildings being built in the state will be overpassed.
No, Mr. Krumale, they are bypassing agencies. They're not bypassing agencies, they are bypassing the system in the agency. So if an institution can be bigger than somebody.
Okay, well, are you trying to say we have people bigger than institutions?
That's exactly what's happening now. That's what's happening now. Because now you have buildings in Lekki the other day demolished because of right of way or whatnot. Who gave those people
to go ahead?
Some of those people have governor's consent. The document.
The buildings that went down.
Some of those buildings that were torn down for the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, they have governor's consent. Some of them have C of O.
Okay, now.
Who gave them those
for some of those buildings that have C of O, yes, government can come and, even if you have legal C of O, government can say, okay, we want to make use of this place, we'll compensate you for taking this place. But for some other places, for some other places, we get to see this kind of example you just gave now. So, are we looking at a case where we are not seeing crime and punishment?
Of course.
You've always talked about heads rolling. Heads don't roll in this country.
They don't roll enough.
Yeah, they don't roll
at all.
They don't roll at all.
Okay, so the thing is, it's not that institutions are bigger than individuals.
Institutions should be bigger than individuals.
They ought to be.
No, I beg your pardon. It's the other way.
Yes.
I don't think individuals are bigger than institutions, because an institution
They have more money
is
than
a breed of it's a breed and a child of parliamentary conjugation, if I should use that word. Laws birth institution. It's an act of parliament. So it has powers. The thing is, when a human being is employed to go and supervise or head that institution, it does not dictate the way the institution should run. The institution has been established with powers and laws on the way it should run. So when the individual gets into office, it operates based on those laws. But in these cases, the individual becomes the authority that suspends those laws, even though it does not have the statutory requirement to suspend those laws, because suspending those laws from operation it's the right or the objective of the one who established those laws in the first place. So if you come in as the Director General or the chairman of that building permit and construction or town planning agency, there are laws that has been set in place for you to run. If you go contrary to those laws, there should be a whistleblower policy, even within that system, to call them out.
You brought up the whistleblower policy. We as a people, are we that open to reporting this kind of things? When we see things go wrong,
who are the people? They are benefiting from the laws.
We citizens.
How do I know how many
we get to report and ask questions?
I want
That's
to know
a good
that.
point.
But do we ask questions enough?
I don't have access to that kind of information. I'm not privy to that. No, but
there are places where we can't get to and ask this question.
So I'm going to go after doing my work from 9 to 5.
I feel like we are paying,
it's our responsibility.
Check information about the building on Lagos.
I feel like we're paying too much attention to, the agencies. Yes, the agencies have, a lot to do.
Okay.
But let's not overlook the fact that we also have people delivering substandard products.
Building materials.
Yes.
Building materials.
There are also agencies to look at that. To monitor that.
Thank you very much. But then, when you have these same people, the people who are supposed to, the suppliers who are supposed to, or the developers who, because, I need to build an estate in 6 months, and because I need to quickly get this, and people have paid, most of the time they've paid, people have already paid for those, buildings and all of that. And then, because I need to, time is not really on my side and all of that, and you see structures are up in less than the approved time.
Okay,
and
now
then you see also building materials as well.
Let's get to the state now. Lagos State is where we're dealing with, but this happens across board, all states. If you happen to be in power tomorrow, Moyo, what will you do to remedy situations like this?
For one, we just need the agencies to be more transparent in their dealings. We also have to take away all the bureaucratic bottlenecks, the cost of getting all these things tested, and because it makes it easier for people to say, let me just bribe this person and move on. But then it negates the purpose of why the agencies were established. It's about safety. It's about ensuring quality, service delivery, especially in the infrastructural system. So you have to take away all the things that make it difficult for the people to want to go to the system, to believe in the system. And that's why I always talk about public trust, in how we do things. Many people, we don't trust all these agencies. There's a deficit there.
No.
So these are the things that
But the people in the agencies, are they not people like me?
That's why I'm telling you, you just said something about punishment. We don't punish these people. So that building that collapsed, the people who kept going back there and seeing that they were still building and building, what happened to those people?
What happened to them?
People have to be held. So nobody gets held responsible. There will be no accountability and there will be no discipline.
Let me briefly reference.
Was stopped 3 times.
Let me briefly reference.
That means somebody is doing their job, and then somebody is cutting the job that somebody is doing.
So let me reference briefly the public trust, like the people who live around areas such as that, because if the accident takes place,
you also get affected.
You also get affected. You live in an area, you see a structure just growing tall.
Mr. Krumale,
just a moment, let me land now. No, wait, please, wait.
Even if it's not growing tall, structures are just springing up.
are just springing up.
Ask questions.
Sometimes you see the government has taken the responsibility that they send down those supervisors and they looked at the building, they mark it with red paint, and they are telling you, stop construction. An ordinary man passing by the street could see it, stop construction. And you live in that area. The next day, the next week, you see people continue. There's nothing. Just like, okay, you look at this. We have one of taking pictures. We'll take picture.
I think
put it on your Twitter account, in your X account, in your Instagram account. Put it. The government or the building authorities have actually stopped building of this particular building. I mean, there's also suspended construction of this particular building. But you can see that the builders are still, they're still going on with it. If it collapses, that is when tag the Lagos State government, tag the Ministry or the Commission for Building and Permission, that grants permission for buildings. You can do that on your own, and you are doing that based on your own as a human being, as a responsible person of society who is actually talking about things happening in their vicinity. If the government responds by way of you raising that alarm, you could be saving the lives of lots of people in the society.
I hear you, and I see your perspective. But the truth about this is that it's a narrative that absolves people who are responsible for things.
So why is now civil?
So I'm supposed to be their watchdoug now?
No.
Okay.
You're just being a watch. You're just watching out for yourself.
This is
for living in this area or for having your.
Let's hold on now. There's something called responsibility. Responsibility is not always rosy. I don't know.
Accountability,
it's not,
actually.
Now,
in this case, it's accountability.
Yes, accountability for those that jobs and service has been committed to their hands. But now, we as citizens, we should now start taking responsibility for not just ourselves, but what we see, what is around us. We are not talking enough. That goes not just even to the people we elected. We are not talking enough. If we say, let's get responsible and accountable, let's start with us. If my rep is not representing me enough, I should talk. You
Do
don't
I
see
even have
things-
his social media handle that I can reach him? Some of the numbers they have on social
Yeah,
media,
Bola,
you want to call them, nobody picks
You see,
up. It
that was the
doesn't
question
go.
I wanted
So,
to ask. That you saying you're
yeah, I know
saying
they are
that
faults
you
too.
should report
But
to
I think-
someone. What are we
Oh, there are
reporting?
other things that we have raised, that are other alarms that we have raised on social media, on X, that has become the conversation for the day, for the whole month, for the whole week in the country. We can use same means to channel our complaints.
That looks like a speed dial.
Yes. So what, you have someone who knows, who stays in your area, who you know that is a celebrity or is a social media influencer, and that if he or she takes up a matter, the government, if you see the government responding and say, no, this is not true. If you can get their attention by those people, then we can still get their attention.
I don't think that's realistic.
It's just being publicly
I don't
responsible.
think
Let's look at the approval side of it. Let's look at this approval side of it. If the state is coming out now to say this is coming directly from the state's office. When these buildings were going up, somebody was going around supervising. Don't you think we should start holding them accountable first, holding them responsible? Okay, when you went all these other areas, all these other structures that went up, who were those assigned to areas? Because I think each person in the office is assigned to specific areas. So we should start holding them accountable first.
This question you just asked now, we'll take it back to the 21-story building that collapsed.
We've got beyond the 21-story building.
Hold on.
We're trying to stop another from falling.
Hold on. We're trying to stop. Yes.
Good.
That's why we reference one that fell.
It ties into one way or the other. Because, say, for example, there are buildings in Mushin, for example, that have been tagged distressed. Who tagged them distressed? The controlling agencies.
And people
Somebody
are still
must
living
have
there.
gone. No, people have packed out.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, the place I used to buy my kilo of fish, they had to pack out
Because they were distressed.
because the building is distressed. Okay? So now, there's somebody responsible for that went there, they did the assessment, they did the surveying and everything, and this building is going to come down very soon. You guys need to come out. Okay? And then, we also have people that were accountable to the fact that they were monitoring. For someone to see that 10 floors were approved, but now you're on 17.
Yeah.
And then construction stopped for about a month or two. Who gave the approval for the construction to continue?
Okay, now when we find that, we'll make sure.
Because
We are talking about
because you're saying that me on the street, I should go and be calling them. Is it not the same people that say allowed it to continue? I don't understand.
These
We
people
have
know
more
their job.
numbers.
They are
We know.
doing their job. But then there
somebody
are
that's
also
not
some
doing it
people
too.
that also know their job that are being graced somewhere or that are, whatever is happening.
Whether it's
they are
incompetence or is whatever
They're
it
allowing
is.
it to happen. They're enabling it to happen.
Okay, in every 12, there's a Judas.
So who's the Judas?
Well, you will find that.
Okay, so there's this. I want to take 5 million buildings, right? Approved. Okay, that's and the minister said. Is it the minister or the commissioner? He said scattered all across Lagos. 5 million buildings, and for you to obtain a building permit in Lagos State, you required some steps to be, to be fulfilled, and you have sometimes it can range from 1.3 million to 1.8 million. For a building approval, for you to obtain a building approval. So I actually do the math. 1.8 million or 1.3 million times 5 million buildings scattered across Lagos. We're talking about 9.06 billion, thereabout, if not more. Okay. If we have that, that is also on the part of the government losing money, running to billions of naira. And if they're going to make sure that things are done correctly, it's even going to work in their favor because it's going to improve the IGR of the state from that building permit, granting of building permit. Now, so the greasing of the palms.
I think they're getting that money.
The act of greasing the palms of some individuals in these institutions is actually denying the state itself from making.
I strongly disagree.
So in that
think they're getting
specific
that money.
case,
You're looking at it from the revenue side of it.
yes, I just looked at it from the revenue.
I think they're
aspect
getting
of it.
that
And
money.
if we are to do that, if they are really making the money,
Yes.
then I think if they are really making the money, then they are shooting the number that the commissioner gave to us. They are shooting above that,
Okay.
that is specifically on ground.
Okay, now if we go with the narrative of making the money, then the question now comes: who exactly is making the money. That's one more thing. Then also, if we look at what the commissioner said, we look at the time frame of getting those permits done. We need to shorten that and make sure that if I apply for a permit in less than 2-3 days, once you come and inspect and it's okay, hey, you issue the permit. We'll go on a very short break and SBL will be right back. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to SOUQ Business Landscape, and now to our last story for discuss for today. The Chinese ambassador to Nigeria, Yu Dunhai, has stressed the need for stronger cooperation between China and Nigeria in harnessing Nigeria's solid minerals, especially through setting up electric vehicle factories. During a visit to the Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Dr. Dele Alake in Abuja, the ambassador said such collaboration will support Nigeria's industrial growth and economic diversification. Ambassador Dunhai recalled the recent agreement between President Tinubu and Xi Jinping to deepen bilateral ties, highlighting China's plan to boost local manufacturing in Nigeria. He affirmed China's support for Nigeria's policy on local value addition, noting that Chinese firms already operate in mining from exploration to processing. Now, I will stop at exploration. The to processing part of it is where I will put a question mark. Now, one of the major highlights of this particular talk of his were EV vehicles. EV vehicles, electric vehicles. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, from this side of the divide, we want to say thank you very much to every Chinese firm working here and to every Chinese citizen working here. And we hope that you do better what you're doing in China, and we'll also do better to accept you the way we are, and things will get better. Now, let's talk about production. Yes. I like the smile on your face. Just add more to it. Is it possible right now that we are benefiting from the movement of solid minerals, majorly those that affect manufacturing of vehicles and electric motors? Majorly from lithium.
No.
Well, I was going to be a little bit more diplomatic about that answer.
No, we're not.
Why?
Oh, my goodness. Miners are dying in Zamfara State.
Okay.
Buildings
miners.
Illegal miners. by the way.
Thank you very. Now you're on point.
Illegal miners. Okay. But the point is, no, we're not maximizing our capacity. You know, the production that we. Nigeria is a major exporter, or should be a major exporter of lithium, bitumen.
We should not be. We
so
are. Directly or indirectly.
So we're not, but it's fine. I like, you know, you're being positive. But the truth is we should be, but we're not, because we are, you know, second largest in the world, and we should be ordinarily. But then, because of bureaucracies and all of that, and that's why, you know, a lot of people were excited and very, they were optimistic when Solid Minerals was, you know, taken out and established as a ministry on its own. But then, when Dr. Delalaki was made the minister, there were a lot of questions as regards whether or not he has the technical know-how to lead that particular ministry. Okay, and the expectations from that ministry is not being met at this time. Now, if we're focusing on, you know, solid minerals, but if we want to look at the EV part, should we quickly move on?
No, let's look at
still
the EV. Is the
solid minerals?
Is the EV that we're talking about? EV as it affects solid minerals that affect the EV company.
No, Nigeria is not. No, Nigeria.
No, now we're not benefiting that much from.
Okay, now that much. We're not benefiting at all.
Let's Moyo. I'm coming to you. Yeah. Is China? Because a lot of times we get to see China in the forefront. Why? Because they are also exploring.
Yeah.
And what they explore, they take back home.
Yeah.
They don't just sell. So should China be the ones to tell us the story or the narrative on the resources coming from our own part of the country?
I mean, they probably will be the ones, because we have a lot of geopolitical dependency on China, which bothers me a lot. You know, but that's particularly an aside. But I do think that one of the major things we should concern ourselves about with deals of this nature, right, we all know that there's a lot of, environmental concerns when it comes to exploring lithium. So what are we going to do if these people don't, stick to health and safety regulations? And we also must remember that we have very weak regulatory framework when it comes to mining here in Nigeria, right? People are bribing people. You're just mining. The way the extra 7 layers of buildings appear on houses is where you just find mines randomly in different states in Nigeria, and you call them illegal mining. How does this happen? How did it get here?
People have to make a living.
Yeah, people. I'm going to disregard.
Okay, I didn't say that.
I'm going to disregard that statement because that.
Put it in quote.
I'm going to disregard that statement.
Let's get.
But then another thing we must also do, and I think this is for the people who were at the table when these decisions were being made, is to negotiate joint ventures. An agreement that actually serves us, the people. We must also look at local content. There will be no way, it won't make any sense for the Chinese to come now and in the mine, 70% of them are Chinese. Because that's what the issue is.
That's what actually is obtainable now.
Is it in the mines or in supervision?
In mines,
in the mines and supervision. Just the other
Most
day,
of them are Chinese.
Some expatriates were arrested, as regards illegal mining, and they found some of them there.
Okay.
So yes, they're also culpable as well.
Okay, Priye, before I get to you, let's get this out there. For everyone out there, it doesn't matter where you're from, what your locality, what language you speak. The truth of the matter is this: anything you mine, there's a whole lot of danger that comes with it. Some are radioactive materials if you're not too sure, and they are not good for your health. So while you try to make a living, please find out what exactly happens after you get those things out of the ground. Now, Priye, let's get to you.
I honestly don't care. Just pay me. Let me go.
Now there's a problem. Now, before this administration came up, there was this particular policy African countries were trying to do. And they were saying, don't take primary product away from us. Let's start having some processing right here. Some countries said, we can't give you lithium if you don't build battery processing and production here. Do you think Nigeria can follow that particular route? We
can.
We should.
Are we going to? So the thing is this. Nigerian mining or solid mineral industry is, we're engaged in production of gold, iron ore, bitumen, and just name it. It has the potential of $5 trillion if we really harness it. So the dream of the current administration to make Nigeria a $1 trillion economy is not far-fetched. It's something that we can do if we are objective enough. Now, if you look at the ambassador, or Dunai, what was he saying? First of all, he came out to debunk the allegation that the Chinese are involved in illegal mining activities in Nigeria and cutting away Nigeria's, solid minerals in their local natural form, without any addition of value locally. So they are taking away a lot. And they bring back trinkets and gold and every other thing they want to do. It becomes a raw material that is meant for food, for their manufacturing hubs in China. So what they are saying now is that we are currently involved in another deal. We are not doing that, that it is the responsibility of the Nigerian government to set up a proper regulatory framework in place to manage this movement of raw materials. However, that they are going to set up factories. Now, I read the word I was trying to circle the word, but this is not a stylus, so I can't draw that circle on my phone. Factories, not factory. The Chinese, they are going to partner with Nigeria to make sure they build factories in the country for the manufacturing of electric vehicles. Now, if we are going to do that, and we've been working with the Chinese for a while, and they are taking away our raw materials, in this specific case, China should not be telling us that, look, this is the area that we are going to come and build factories that will manufacture electric vehicles. China knows that electricity, talking about electric power-wise, Nigeria has not developed the capacity to be able to, manufacture and sell electric vehicles, because the major problem now, if we're going to do that, It's now going to become, how do we manage the electric vehicles? Do we have the facility in place to sustain it? They know that we are going to need them again.
Okay.
Because that's going to be the bottleneck. So Nigeria should be in the place of telling them that, okay, fine, we're good. But you know what? Our priority is not the manufacturing of electric vehicles for now. We want to manufacture vehicles that can use fuel. Because at the moment, we still have lots and millions or trillions and tons of
What happened to the
deposit.
PCNG initiative last year?
That's the compressed natural
Yes,
gas
oh,
policy.
yes. What happened to that?
How many of the vehicles have we seen on Nigerian streets?
It is
So
what happened to it.
Don't dictate to us. We will dictate.
Who's dictating?
No. I mean, Nigeria should be able to tell China.
Thank you.
It is not electric vehicles that is our priority for now. Our priority for now, you see, look at what the Chinese said. They are going to take away our local raw materials in gold, iron ore, and all of that to feed their industries there. So why don't we, China, if you're going to take away some of this, no problem. We can do that. We can give you some. However, we want us to build us factories here that will be able to mine this gold here, to be able to translate or add value to this gold, to the iron ore, to the bitumen here, so that we're able to add value to it and use it for the benefit. So because if we do that, we'll no longer need to depend on China.
For the mining?
No, not for the mining, for adding value to the raw materials they take out of this
They built
place.
factories here, they're already adding value. And let's not forget very, very quickly, what happened between the Chinese government and the Ogun State government just last year. There's still, a lot of ongoing issues.
For that part, is it the loan issue?
Yes.
It was not loan issue. It was not loan issue. It was a partnership. Ogun State had a partnership with the Chinese government. Come in. They gave them the trade zone, yes, and they turned to a trade zone. China built a lot. The Chinese business people built a lot there, and then all of a sudden, the government said, "Oh, we need to have this," and then before we knew it, they are seizing our airplanes.
Okay, somebody somewhere somehow breached that particular contract.
Somebody that was an Ogun State governor. But
Okay,
it's fine.
thank
Let's
you
move past that.
No, we can't move past that because
we
they
can
kept
move that.
their
So in
side
that
of the
particular
bargain.
case, it is
That's
not the
what I'm
Chinese.
saying, that if this happens, or if that happens now, where you have China coming on board, we've had something similar, and it did not end well.
It was not the federal government. This is the federal government.
Okay. We see that like they have an iron
hold on. They signed an agreement, but the building did not happen. But somebody breached something, and
The building
that
happened.
agreement did not.
It ran,
It
but it did not. It didn't run for the length of time that
Okay.
China was supposed to use to
Recoup
recover.
back the
the money that they had spent.
Let's come back on this particular EVs. At what point should we start seeing, at what point should we start seeing Nigeria and Nigerians put value on things living here or things we are taking out of the ground from here? That should bother us more. Because if we say China is going to build EV assembly plants, they are Chinese companies.
I will build it.
They are Chinese companies. Even when it's built, it's still going to be Chinese companies.
I'm traumatized.
Don't be traumatized.
I am traumatized.
I don't know if you understand.
Because
So at
15
what point
multinationals
are
left
we-
the country in the past 3 years.
At what point are we going to say, this is our product, let us put value on it?
Negotiation.
Negotiation with who?
Negotiation.
That's
About
what
the
you're going
time.
to partnership with.
Look, when it comes...
Negotiation with who?
Moyo
Is it our
referenced
This
geopolitics.
is our product.
Moyo referenced geopolitics
Our
when
raw
he was
material.
giving his perspective on the issue. Are we also thinking geopolitically, whereby we know that we are negotiating from a place of strength, and that after the contract, in 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years from now, if push comes to shove and anything goes south, if we are going to lose, we're not going to lose much. If we don't put in those considerations into our negotiation, our place of negotiation, we're always going to be at the losing side.
Of course.
And China is not doing that. That is why they are telling you we can build electric vehicles factories in your country. So when we do that, we need power. Do you have power? No. So if you are going to depend on power again, that you need power, they are going to come again. We can build you X, Y, Z to sustain you. So they
So
keep
then
on,
you give us more of
they
something.
keep on
We just keep
make
being
sure
the
that
market.
the cycle continues so that they will maintain that market position. And that is why our government, whenever you are coming to negotiate cases
If they
like this,
manufacture,
you also have to think
these
geopolitically.
EVs, if they manufacture these EVs, don't forget, when they manufacture these EVs, is it Nigerians that will buy them?
Yes, of course, they manufacture it here. It's going to be for our market.
No.
Mr. Krumale, you would buy an electric vehicle.
Do you have the logistics to sustain it?
No.
Do you have access to
wait
the
a moment.
logistics to sustain
It's
it?
not, that's not the only
before we
the
go
case. Because even when we go into
The money is still going
export,
out.
it's still going out.
The
But
money
of course,
has
you don't
it's
expect
not
that. Even
bringing
Lee Kuan Yew, when they came to build Singapore, didn't retain
It's
all
not
the
bringing
money
any
in the
value. It's
country.
not bringing any value to the economy.
No,
at
of
the end
course,
the
no.
day.
We cannot displace that. That is not going to bring any value to the economy.
No,
It's
that'll
going to
be
bring
jobs.
value
Why-
to the economy.
Why we look at the value? Why we look at hold on, Moyo. Why we look at value? Why we look at what is built? Why we look at who will pay for what is built? Let's just have that at the back of our minds. The more we keep letting this happen, the longer we'll keep being a market, and the longer
Rely on them.
the longer we won't be able to bring product to that market because we'll only be going to buy and not sell.
Nigeria is not a market for electric vehicles. We are barely a market for CNG vehicles.
Even it's barely in the market for fuel. Do you know
We
how many fuel is cars?
abundance. We have fuel
That is
in
what I read.
abundance.
This is my problem, right? We always want
My
to do
first submission.
innovations without even building the first step that we're used to. We've not built anything, and you just want to get up because it's a fad, it's a trend. It's annoying to me.
On this particular SBL for today, we are going to just say, hey, everyone out there will need you to go to our social media handles and continue this conversation because it is not stopping now. Do we need these EVs?
Manufacturing
future-
plants.
We tell. Do we need the plants? For sure, yes, we need the jobs. But are they going to be Nigerian plants? Are they going to how much of the shares is going to be owned by us? How much of the equity will come from here? These are things we need to consider. And for the product living here, please, every single one need to open my mouth and talk. It should not just be primary products living here. If we can't add value to it, then whoever wants to take it should add value to it right here on our soil. I want to say thank you for being a part of SBL for today. My name is John Rogers Chooks, and you can follow me on CGovnor, CGUVNOR, on all social media handles, and we'll continue this conversation. Priya?
Yes, as for me, China, please come build it. Okay? Don't worry.
In Biafra
2060, Delta State actually, if you choose to. In 2060, Nigeria wants to get to the 0-point emission where we are really moving along with the climate change discussion. Probably would have been there by then. All right. My name is Oyinpreye Krumale. Many thanks for watching.
Any last words?
Bola, go ahead, please.
I'm so excited. You know, the reason why I feel this way is because what happened between China and Ogun State just last year I'm sorry, maybe I'm a little bit traumatized, but like Mr. Prey said, let's look to the federal government to do something better, hopefully. My name is Omobola Sandra.
My name is Moyosore Adebiyi. You can follow me on all social media platforms, X and Instagram at Moyo Lagos. Thank you so much.